So we start with this topic today, understanding and mastering fear. And of course, I had decided on another topic, but because one is hearing and one is talking what is happening because of the corona pandemic and um, how there is such an atmosphere of fear that people cannot help but get into the fear mode. So I really thought that it's important to talk about this topic today. And so I've taken this up. Last time we talked about love, and I really feel the opposite of love is fear. And it's so very important for us to know and understand this energy that is present around us and so many times overpowers us, paralyzing us, limiting us, so that we are not able to come to our full potential, live a full life, live a free life. And these tentacles of fear, so these tentacles of fear, where do they come from? I remember in one of the talks, it was Riddhi who asked this question. I am just admitting few people who are here. So she asked, I remember such a beautiful question, that what is the genesis of fear? And I really feel that's the importance of it's why I ask at the end that please ask questions and please post comments, because it really also gives me food for thought. And when I started thinking about what I'm going to talk about in this topic, I felt that's also an important question as we look at fear itself. So, with my work with people, as I've worked using inner child therapy, as I've worked using past life therapy, I've seen so many of our fears, they come from our childhood experiences, which have been long forgotten and stored away. But the emotion, it persists. So many of these feelings of fear, they come from beliefs that have been formed in childhood, but they have gone into the subconscious. As you all know, our subconscious is the 97% of our brain, and the conscious brain is very less. So when something has gone into the conscious, subconscious, and it has been stored away, we no longer have access to it. But those subconscious fears would be driving our, or rather limiting our lives every day, every moment. And we wouldn't be able to explain them away. So many of these fears, I would say, first of all, the origin of fears, they come from our childhood experiences. They come from our social conditioning, the conditioning of our parents, our family. They come from the society, the fears that society holds. So I had asked you to keep a pen and a paper with you, and maybe you can take this moment now to reflect for a little while, 1 minute, 2 minutes, to pinpoint what are the fears that you think your mother had or your father had. Just start thinking about it. So many times our parents will not say in so many words to us that, oh, I am scared of this. Sometimes parents might do that, but mostly they don't. So when we have to look at their fears, it has to be an indirect understanding of what their fears could be. Maybe they kept saying that the world is a bad place, people are bad. So then maybe their fears would be of people, of distrusting life. Or they were so safety conscious, they were so overprotective, then their fears could be okay, yes, Rupika, yeah. So remember the things that your parents used to say to you. Money does not come by easily. Did they have fears related to money? Or, you know,
So, Harkamal, I have a question.
yes. Please, Riddhi, yeah, go on. So please reflect on it. And of course, if you have a question, do tell me about it. Hello, Riddhi.
Yeah, Harkamal. Sorry, I think some internet issues. So you are saying we need to write down what our parents said to us that can be fearful or what our interpretation is.
Yes. What do you think their fears were? What I was
Okay,
saying was that mostly they will not be speaking to you directly. They
correct,
won't
correct.
say, "Oh, you know what? I am afraid of, that we won't have enough money."
Right, right.
Okay, okay. So Gagan is saying, I think our generation has more fears and insecurities than our parents. Could be. You could also think that what were the fears when you were growing up, or even currently, the fears that are prevalent in the society. Like, of course, now the big fear is that I will get corona, or my loved one will get infected. This is the big fear right now. What are the fears prevalent around you?
Lack of work opportunities.
Right? So the fears were related to that there won't be enough work opportunities.
You
That's
lose the
what you
job.
feel. Right, and you can keep reflecting on it later on also. So we are just trying to bring it into our awareness that there are fears which have been transmitted to us. Right, Gagan is saying unhealthy selves, yeah, which are the fearful selves. That, yeah, that's we'll come to that line of understanding also. So we are trying to understand from where those impressions could have come to us. I'll just mute this one. So So we can keep on reflecting on that. And when we understand the fears that our parents had, or the fears that were prevalent in the society, we can understand our own behaviors also. Because as as I have mentioned earlier, for 7 years of our lives, we are in a hypnotic stage. Our brain is just absorbing everything that is given to us. So if we are growing up in a fear-filled atmosphere, सिंपल थिंग्स लाइक पढ़ना बड़ा जरूरी है, नंबर आने चाहिए, नहीं तो तुम्हारा क्या होगा लाइफ में, कुछ बन के दिखाना है तुमने, नहीं तो कैसे पैसे कैसे कमाओगे, जियोगे कैसे. All of those statements that are given to so many children, like almost all the children, it would help us understand the subconscious. Yeah, Ruti, you were told that too. पढ़ना बहुत जरूरी है, नहीं पढ़ोगे तो क्या होगा आपका, right? Yeah. है ना? So all of that programming that was given to us, and as I was reflecting on this, and I was thinking that actually all of our life, the life model that all of us have, is based on is a fear based model. या पढ़ना बड़ा जरूरी है, ठीक है, पहले आप बड़ी मेहनत करके आप पढ़ोगे, आप नंबर लोगे, then you will give some entrance, you will enter into a good college, then you will get a good job so that you can earn money, और आप अपना गुजारा चला पाओ या अपने लिए चीजें ले पाओ. So everything is based on a feeling of lack. So unless I work hard, I'm never going to get any money. So it's a fear of not being able to sustain yourself. So our parents' generation more, like especially those who have, faced partition, our grandparents, this because the social context is also so important in which they were living. So they had so much of those survival fears. How are we going to survive? The survival was at stake. And those fears are transmitted to the children, wherein why are we, like, if we question ourselves, why are we doing what we are doing, why is life supposed to be like this, that this job comes and this marriage comes and this children comes, how do we all come to live like that? Why cannot it be, life can be like this, that oh, what is it that you love to do, you're always going to have enough food, you're always going to be fine, you're always going to be protected, like these things are like taken care of. But then what is it that you would really like to do? Okay, so this question, if this was how we were brought up, then fear wouldn't enter our system, and probably then so many of us also tend to overwork and do the works that we don't even like. So those things probably wouldn't happen. We wouldn't be limited. We would be expanded, and we'd be living a very happy and a very fulfilled life. So we are going back to where we were, looking at the origin of the fears. Yeah. So childhood, I would say, is a big place from where the fears would come from. But there are fears which are, if we move on from childhood, there are fears which are very deep seated. So one classification of fears would be the fears at a mental level. So there is, yes, Riddhi, yeah, that's what I'll be coming to that, which fear which begins at birth also. Yes, I'll be coming to that. So the fear which we got from our childhood, you know, one is the fear at the mental level. So at the mental level, I might be, so if there is a fear which is, oh, maybe this tree might fall, it might fall on me, there's a storm coming and it might fall on me, or it might fall on my loved one and they might get injured. So that's a fear in the mind, and I might not have many sensations accompanying it. So if we look at fear, so there could be a thought attached to it, and there could be sensations like butterflies in the stomach, like a falling feeling, like as if my insides are falling down, my knees are going weak, or the palpitations in the heart. So these are physical sensations that can accompany a deep feeling of fear, and those are the deeper fears. They are existing at a vital level, at an emotional level. They are existing. The fear at the mental level, they'll come as a thought. They might be accompanied by some physical symptoms, but those physical symptoms would be very little or non-existing. So if I think that, oh, the tree might fall, so I can reason with myself that no, it won't, and okay, so I can avoid that. Oh, no, I can just stay inside, and it's a very strong tree, it won't fall. I can think like that. The mental fear. The vital fear, the strong emotions which lead to this fear, which is accompanied by very strong sensations. It's like an anxiety which is overpowering, or it's like a panic which is overpowering. It's That's a much deeper fear. Yeah. And it cannot be intellectually reasoned away. It's very hard to just tell yourself and be okay, so that's just the internet, Ritu, I can't help it. So if you miss something, do tell me. I'll repeat it, please. Yeah. So uh, so yeah. So that is the fear, which is a very deep fear. So we'll later on we'll go into how we work with those fears. Okay, Mandeep is saying I do that to kids too, especially with okay, study to be okay, okay, I get it. Yeah, we have to, get rid of those notions that you have to excel and so you have to study. And why can't it be like this? That okay, what is it that you like to do? And you can do that. Yeah. So I think Mandeep, we have to leave that kind of thinking. So So we came to the vital fears, and there would also be physical fears, and physical fears are very deep rooted, as if they are programmed into our DNA. They are fears like which are completely illogical and which we cannot explain by any stretch. Like some people have claustrophobias, or they have irrational fears, fear of maybe some insect, fear of lizards, and it's overpowering fear. And many of these fears, I believe, they come from our past lives. They could be, I believe, they could be with very instinctual fears in the body, which the body has at the level of the body, so that it can protect itself. So the fear of getting hurt or getting burnt, there will be no thought, but that fear will be there. So, according to Siri Aurobindo, says that very, very few people do not have physical fears. Like most people would have physical fears. It's easiest to work on the mental fears, and then it's more difficult to work on the emotional fears, the vital fears, and hardest to work on would be the physical fear because they would be the deepest. Yeah. So these are the layers of uh, the fear that are there in the system. Yeah.
Harkamal, can you give us some examples of physical fear then?
Yeah. So physical fear, it could be, see, some people, they have claustrophobia. They cannot enter lifts, or they do not want to go into do not want to fly, or they have irrational fear of maybe the opposite sex, irrational fear of anything, of any insect, so scared of the snakes. So I believe those are the very deep rooted fears, which could be coming from past life samskaras. And past life regression has been seen as a good way of curing that. Yeah. Or the instinctual fears, like, so the body would like to stay stable. If it's falling, if it's going to fall, it might just have this instinctual fear of it will just back up. Yeah. So this is just existing at the level of body. So they're just different kinds of fear. We are just exploring different kinds of fears, and we don't need to get lost in the classification of it. But the majorly what we need to understand are the fears at the level of mind, which are just existing at the level of thought. So when you list, like, this is another exercise that you can do, that you can list your own fears, and you really don't need to dig deliberately to get at the fears. If there are no fears, it's okay. you know so maybe there aren't any which are overpowering you. So when do we need to act on these fears? That's also an important question. It's not just that, okay, we are attending this talk now and just let's start working on it. We need to act on the fears. We need to release them if they are limiting our life in any way. If I am not at my full potential because the fears have been stopping me, oh, I can't get out of the house because I am so scared of being in an accident. So that's a very limiting fear. Or I have a fear of speaking up. So I just don't say anything, and even the people closest to me do not know how much I'm suffering or what is going on with me. So if there is a fear which is limiting your life, then you have to work on it. Otherwise, there could be fears which are not limiting your life in any way, and you are just there, and they're very well managed. Like, I'm giving this talk, and I'm not making any claims that I have mastered all my fears and there are no fears. But I can make this claim that the fear might be there, but I'm very well able to carry on my life. I can observe it and be free of it. I can do whatever I feel like doing without the fear being an impediment there. So it is there, but it's not overpowering, right? So that is for you to see. So even now, as you're hearing me, you can see, reflect on this. What are your fears? Like, does anything come to your mind which is limiting you in any way? So you can, take a moment to list them. And if there isn't anything, it's completely fine.
I
Yeah. Do you want to say something? If anybody would like to share, they can share their fear, and we can see in which classification.
Harkamal, you're muted. Harkamal, you're muted.
You cannot hear us.
We can't hear you.
Wait, let's send her a message.
Muted. Yes, I'm back. I'm back. I was
Okay, okay.
muted. I'm back. Okay.
We were wondering what happened.
So would anybody like to share their fears?
Oh,
And
I would.
yes.
I would like to share that, of course, I think the recent fear that I've really seen that has gone into my system also has been, losing my parents, because in this whole process, I saw my dad go through so much anxiety. And in the process, he lost 7 kilos, but I was doing my meditation, being positive, attending all of, all our sessions and everything. And I was in a very happy life state also. But I have lost 3 kilos myself, not realizing that I was somewhere subconsciously absorbing his anxiety as well. So I do know that, of course, now this fear has set in that, what would life be without. So how do we kind of, I mean, I'm talking about from the present moment because I feel this anxiety has set in.
Right. So that's a deeper fear. It's not just at the mental level.
Okay.
So it's a more deeper fear. So we'll go into, that's going to be a next thing. We'll go into how do we work on these fears.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll go into.
There's also another fear of, uh, no matter what and how I do enough, I always question myself: have I done enough? Am I enough? I think that's another fear of.
So that is at the childhood level. That's what I feel.
Yeah.
It's because of the beliefs that have been imparted at the level of childhood. You know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
another way of looking at it also is, which we didn't go into, and it's as we have all of those experience in our childhood. So it's like different people are formed inside us, which are different energetic configurations, and many times, like I feel it's so very common that one of them is the fearful self. The fearful self would have these fears stored inside. I'll just mute everyone so that it's quieter. Right. So the fearful self will have all of those fears. And it has, um, its beliefs are so much fear based, and those beliefs are so limited that they're not open to discussion. So I'm saying that also inside us could be this energetic configuration based on fear, which is also another way of looking at, another way, like another point of view to understand the fear that we experience. So if there is this energetic configuration or this self within us who's a fearful self, so it would always try to stop us, limit us, or impede us, or take over us. If it becomes a primary self, or it's like right there in the open, it would try to really overpower us. So that's another way of looking at it. So right now we are just exploring. We are just exploring this arena inside us and taking this different points of views and just looking at the causes of, or the um, intricacy of this emotion that could be inside us. Yeah. So maybe we can like go into the more feel good topic now, which is like how do we work on these fears? It's like that's going to make us feel much better. So uh, the easiest thing that we can do, which is very doable, and something which doesn't need anything, that is to be in awareness. So the how to be in awareness is, if I can, so I'm sitting here, like can I observe my breath? I just feel my breathing, and I come into an observer state where I can watch what is happening inside me. One way of being would be to be totally identified with my thoughts. So I become my thought. And another way would be if I can stand back and observe those thoughts. So I observe what is happening inside. That is stepping back and being in awareness. Another layer of being in awareness would be that I'm aware how my body is feeling. So right now, as all of you are sitting, just be in awareness. First of all, connect to your breathing. You can keep your eyes open. Feel your breath. Observe how it feels. Is it shallow? Is it deep? What is the frequency of your breathing? And just as you observe your breathing, also observe your body. Scan your body from your head to your toe. See, is there any area of tightness, or is your body relaxed? How are your shoulders feeling? How does your face feel? How do your eyes feel? Just observe. You're observing your breath and you're observing your body. Or you can also observe your thoughts. See if any thought flits by, and you just take a observer position and just observe them. And many times it is very hard to do that, but you can hold that intention. It's easier to observe your breathing. It is easier to observe your body. It's a little bit harder to observe your thoughts, because many times when we have just started this practice, that there are so many thoughts and they're like just so much tied with each other, and it's like a guthi inside us, that it's becomes very difficult to observe them. So if that is so with you, then what you do is you just observe your breathing and you just observe your body. That's much easier to do. And slowly, 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 as you keep practicing that, you'll be able to come to observation of your thoughts. So that is to be in awareness. Like you are looking at me now, you're listening to me now. Similarly, you can be in observation of yourself. So then you would be aware of yourself. See, if you are not observing yourself, then you are not in awareness of yourself. And then what will happen? The unconscious will take over. And unconscious would be all of these negative energies, all of these negative thoughts. So then we're gonna slide down. Okay, and as we start working on it, so this technique, it sounds easy, it sounds very doable, but we have to keep doing it, we have to keep doing it. So the vital fears, and Sri Aurobindo mentions that also, and I can say that from my own practice as a therapist, that the vital fears tend to come back again and again. They'll come back again and again. Right. So Riddhi is saying that I can observe, but I get attached to the thoughts. So Riddhi, this is another state in self-awareness. So one would be very nice, great, you know. So one would be that I'm not able to observe my thoughts. One is that I am able to observe, but I might just go along with the thoughts at some time, right? And then another would be that yes, I can decide, and the thoughts may flit by, but I am not attached to any of them. And then another stage would become that there'd be very less thoughts, and then there are no thoughts. It's just very quiet unless I decide to start speaking or thinking. Yeah. So so that was so the vital, it always comes back and comes back. Emotion will always come back. So we seem to be victorious at one moment, that yes, like this is completely calm, I'm doing very well. Okay, so Riddhi is saying, any suggestions for how I can move forward from here? So Riddhi, what we do is that we stay in awareness. So what we do is that I just keep on observing my attachment also, and then slowly the attachment will also drop off, or it will drop off more and more. Yeah. So there is only one process for it, and that is about of being in awareness, and it will happen. And we can also drop the need for it to happen. That I now I have to drop this attachment. Like, okay, let me just do it quickly. Okay, so that's the ego speaking. So when we are in this expansive consciousness, so we are able to let go of this urgency to do and for something to get done. So not so many moments are needed to be enlightened. Like this moment is all that is needed. This one moment is all that is needed. So at this moment, yeah. So at this moment, I can just observe that, oh my God, I am so attached to my thoughts. And if I can just observe it in its entirety, that would be like boom. Yeah. So it's not a matter of time also. Right. So I feel that's a very, very important process of for mastering our own fears and any other emotion also, be it sadness or be it any other negative emotion. If we can come into awareness, just remember and come into awareness, and we have to know that the vital will always try to strike back till it is completely defeated, till it knows कि भाई यहाँ अब मेरी नहीं चलने वाली. तो उसमें थोड़ा सा टाइम लगता है, तब तक वो आएगा बार बार. And then as you keep working on it, you would be more and more used to being in this peaceful state, and then that would become your home. You'd be able to see the intrusion of the fear when it comes and know that it's a foreign thing, it's not you. But for that, you have to keep at it. So awareness is one way. Similar to it is meditation. So in meditation, what we are doing is I'm just sitting with my eyes closed and I'm just observing my breathing. It is similar. But what meditation helps is in that it trains our attention. So if we train our attention, like Riddhi asked, the attachment to thoughts, so then our attention becomes so disciplined that it will go only where we want it to go. So for that, meditation helps. So as you all know, what I, practice and I teach is Anapanasati meditation, in which one closes one's eyes and one focuses on the breathing. Simplest thing to do. So that way we train our attention. So then also, see, whatever we give energy to, whatever we give attention to, will always increase. Like Rupika, you were mentioning that thought, right? So something might happen to my parents. Yeah. You were
Yeah.
mentioning that. So for that also, if you do not want a tree to grow, if you don't want this tree to grow, stop watering it. So what does it mean not to water it? I will cease to give any attention to it. So this thought comes, but what I do is I come back to my breathing. So I will come to the third way in which we can act on these fears. Okay? So one would be to not pay attention to it. I'll just mute everyone. So one would be to not pay any attention to it. So second, the third way which I'm coming to now, I'm sorry, I lost my thread of thought. I'm just coming back to it. Hold on. So whatever we feed, that is what will increase. Whatever we give our attention to will increase. So one way of making something lose its power is to stop giving attention to it. Okay? So fear has a way of holding us because we give it the power of our belief. So the fear says, oh, something might happen to, this loved one of yours, and one believes it, and one just goes on hearing it. So what we do is, at the intellectual level, one takes the power of belief away from that fear. And I'm not gonna believe in this. Do not uh, harp is one word. Do not invest your energy in thinking about that fear. So for me also, sometimes fear might come up. This I have learned, and I follow it diligently, that I will not keep thinking about that fear. I can just look at it, and I can look at it, okay, practically, what is it that I can do about it right now? I'll take the practical step, but then I will divert my attention. Like a good affirmation. So when we are scared, so affirmation is another way. Okay. So this is another pointer. We use affirmations to master the fear. So when we are scared that something might happen to our loved ones, we can use an affirmation to counter it. So that is where I'm going to put my energy into. So the affirmation could be, the universe always loves and supports my loved ones, and they're always safe. They're always in good health. So the laws of the universe are that whatever we will focus on, that is what will happen. So if we believe that there is this law which is operational, we would never waste our energy by focusing on the fears. I am scared that something might happen to my loved one, so I'm going to do this affirmation. That is the treatment. We write RX, treatment. So this is the affirmation. So you form an affirmation for your fear. है ना? Yeah, thank you, Ritika. So that's how we counter it. That's what I do. It's not that the fears never come up. They do come up for our loved ones. We are attached to them. We don't want anything to happen to them. So what we do is, then we focus on this affirmation. I can write it somewhere, I can paste it, and I can keep looking at it. Any fear, oh, I might lose money, if that is the fear. So it could be, universe always keeps me abundant. Okay, I will repeat the affirmation really. So therefore, loved ones, it can be that the universe loves and supports my loved ones. They are always healthy and safe. And in place of universe, we can substitute any word. We can use God. We can use any, the guru that we believe in, right? And I truly believe that as we focus on this affirmation, our loved ones do stay safe. And I think in these times of so much negativity around because of the corona pandemic, so there's the media, there's the WhatsApp forwards, it is very important for all of us to have an affirmation for our loved ones and ourselves, that I am being taken care of by the universe. I'm always healthy and safe. I'm loved. I'm supported. The higher powers watch over me, and they watch over my loved ones. So one way, we come to the next point, one way to defeat the fear. And I remember now what Gagan was saying. But she said that the older generation didn't have much fear, and maybe the younger generations have more. And I think the reason is the erosion of faith. The elderly in those times, they had this faith that they say रब दा भाना है, रब सब कुछ ठीक कर देगा. And this generation, all of us, we have shunned religion, and I am not a religious person myself, but then we have also eroded this sense of safety which the trust and the faith in God gives us. For me, I do have a lot of trust in the universe, God, the masters, angels, and I do believe they watch over us. And that belief gives me a sense of safety. To conquer fears, that's another way. We can either choose that or do something different, because there's so many ways. One has to trust in a higher power. So that is one another way. The next point that I can come to is that as we meditate, as like so many of you have been meditating for very long, we are able to find in ourselves a peaceful center. It's like there is this blue sky and there are clouds which pass by. And as we meditate, we are able to forge our identity as the blue sky. So then there's something like fear is less like a cloud which passes by. So that is also another thing. As you meditate, you will be able to realize more and more this center of peace and this center of infinite consciousness. So fear also comes from separation. So if I believe I am separate from you, fear is born, because it's like something somebody might take away from me and I am limited. मेरा कोई ये ना ले ले, मैं किसी का ये ले लूं, मेरा ये कम ना हो जाए, of lack. But if we believe that we are completely connected to the universe, to all the beings, to the consciousness, where can the fear come from? And that feeling, it comes from, it's an experiential feeling, I believe. When we meditate, then we can settle into that feeling of being the all, the all. It's being the sky. So then there can be no feeling of fear. Separation breeds fear. As we come into this unity consciousness, as we come into an interdependent mode of living in our community, in a very practical way, with the neighbors living around us, the friends that we have, the families that we are all interdependent on each other. So if we see ourselves as a community, also the fear becomes less. And again, I would like to say that that is also one of the reasons that, as Gagan was mentioning, that the current generation has more fears, because we see ourselves as so much as individualistic, standalone warriors. I'm going to do everything on my own, and I don't listen to anyone. So I'm saying that everybody interconnected, everybody together, and our identity as a larger consciousness rather than this small ego, this small person. Yeah. So we come to the next point in which we can work on our fears, and that is the intellectual inquiry. So like we spoke about the fears which are just on the basis of mind, like we took the example of a tree falling or anything else. I might miss the train, और ये चीज ऐसे ठीक नहीं होगी, मैं ठीक से नहीं कर पाऊंगी, I might fail at this. Right? So all of this can be countered intellectually as we look, as we continue to probe deeper and deeper. मैं नहीं कर पाऊंगी. So do I think that I have sufficient skills? Have I worked on it more? Okay, like that could be the intellectual inquiry. Or what does it mean to succeed? I really feel a lot of inquiry has to go into what does success mean? What does it mean to be successful? Because that was the whip that was plied on us. You have to be successful, and it never ends. So it's okay, this job that you get and then you're successful, or this much money that you have and then you're successful, right? So these beliefs that have been given to us, these notions, these values that have been given to us, that have led to so many fears in us, they can be broken at the level of the intellect, right? So in fact, any fear can be worked on the basis of intellect also. But the thing is that the deeper fears, the phobias, they will not respond to the intellect. It would be pointless to say, no, no, don't be afraid of the snake. There are not even any snakes right here. Why are you scared? And the other person just feels frustrated listening to it. That no, no, your comments, it doesn't help me. But many of the fears can be countered at the level of the mind. And it also happens that as we are able to release more and more of our fears, so then they'll be at a very superficial level. So the superficial would be just the mind. So then also one can work a lot through the mind, right? So the deeper fears, one can, go for inner child regression. We can go for a past life therapy session, so that somebody who has phobias, those can be worked on. So there's so many fears imparted to us which we know nothing about. Uh, like even the way the child is born, the accepted medical practices itself might cause so much fear in the child that the world is an unfriendly place. Okay, and he grows up as an adult and he feels though the world is a very unfriendly, it's a very uncomfortable and unfriendly place. But the fear has now gone into the subconscious. So many times by deeper work, and it can very well be unraveled by meditation and awareness also. Any kind of fear. But it just needs more time, and something like, when we go for a therapeutic session, it's just like a little bit of a shortcut. I think rebirthing breath work also, I can say, is a very effective technique there, in which we just breathe in a particular way for 1 hour, and we are able to let go of so many emotions that had been impeding us. So I feel these therapies are like shortcuts, but we can very well keep on working on our own through the simple techniques of awareness, to meditation, to affirmations, and through intellectual inquiry. Right? I'll just go if I have go through if I've missed something. Yeah, I think another good way of releasing fear, which I feel is very effective, is the grounding techniques, connecting to earth. So anytime when we walk barefoot on grass, for example, we hug a tree, or we just spend time in the nature, we're being with flowers and we're being with trees, it will just so automatically relax us. So this is another way in which this current generation has become so disconnected from nature, and so the fears have increased. So grounding, I feel, and being in nature. Okay, so Rubinder is asking which fears we impose on our kids. Okay, that's a very good question. I'll answer that. So any fear, yes. So any fear that we have not worked within ourselves on, we would be knowingly, unknowingly passing on that fear to our children, right? That is why it becomes so important to work on ourselves, to be able to identify my own fears, right? And to be able to rise above them. So, and when you say how can we reverse them, so I feel it's as we also change ourselves and as we are changing every day, I feel they really can be reversed. The children respond so beautifully when we change and when we become relaxed. And many of them can just drop those fears right there. Yeah. So it's a very intricate process. And I feel that we should not blame ourselves at all कि ओ मैंने अपने बच्चों को पास कर दिया. We as parents, we always do the best that we can for our children. Okay? But with something which is so unconscious, it cannot be helped. It just overtakes us, right? So, though being very well-meaning, we tend to, and I would have done too. Like everybody would have done that. We can't help it, right? But as we keep working on ourselves, as all of you are, that's why you are here. That's why you are listening to me. you know. So, as all of us keep working on ourselves, we by changing ourselves we'll be undoing them every time with our kids also. Know that any moment the parent transforms, the kid just sees it, and whatever age the kid is, they are able to change also, they are able to drop their own fears also. So please do not feel any guilt, rather feel good about yourselves that you are here, you are giving, you're investing your time, you're investing your energy into listening and into working on yourself, right? So just appreciate yourself with that. You cannot help what was passed on to you, but today you're working on passing something different to your children. Yeah. So grounding, I will again say, is a wonderful technique. We can uh, anything we do with our hands also, because that's always very calming. It could be embroidery, it could be cooking, it could be working with clay, pottery, it could be gardening, right? So all of those are also very calming. And that's also another reason that the fear has increased so much in the current society, because we've stopped working with our hands at all. We always have help at home, most of us, and they are the ones who are doing everything, and we just lose contact with our surroundings and ourselves. So it's so important. So even for children, the when if we can simply engage them simply in some tasks at home, and when we are also participating, then they do not feel that it's a burden if we are also doing it. It's like cooking together, something like which is also fun and which everyone is doing. So that's also another way in which it's a bonding for the children also, and it's a calming activity for ourselves. It is calming for the children also, right? So it's very important to do fun things together. Okay, I'll just check if I've left anything. Okay, cover this. Yeah, I would like to go into another way of looking at fear, which I actually was meditating and I got this insight. And I was like, wow, this is such a beautiful insight. So I got this insight that fear and desire are very closely interlinked. Without desire, fear cannot exist. So these are the two statements that I got. And I really felt that it's so true at one level. If you look at the level of the mind, every fear is a desire attached to it. Like even if I am afraid that something might happen to my loved ones, so the desire is that, oh, they should always stay happy, healthy, safe. And not to say whether the desire is right or wrong. Okay. So if the fear is that, oh, I might lose all the money. So the desire is that, oh, I should have a lot of money. The fear is that, oh, I would have no place to stay or no food to eat. So the desire is that I must have a place to stay and I must have food to eat. So it's like so interesting to see that both of them are so interlinked. Though the desire appears to be such a positive entity and the fear appears to be so negative, but they both work hand in hand. So as we work on the awareness processes, as we work on meditation, the process has to be to drop both of them. I can, if I can look at a desire and not act, it's there and I'm just observing. And I can look at a fear and not engage with the fear, and I'm just there observing with both of them, right? So fear is not the bad guy, I think. He's just another side of a coin. One side of the coin is desire, the other side of the coin is fear. And I feel our journey has to be in this infinite consciousness, which is in the observation of this play which is happening in this Maya, which we call this world. The play of desire and the play of fear. So, as we stay in observation, we would be able to become more and more free of our fears, and we'll be able to live a much more fulfilled, a much more happier, expansive, and a life which is at the highest potential.
So that's why when everybody says that just be, when you're like just being, that is a state of where you are obviously not attaching yourself to fear and also to, as you said, desire.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's like bang on. That's what I'm saying.
Hmm.
So I'll just stop the recording for now.